So speaking of remakes and remakes of foreign films, should we say?
Yeah.
What 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 do you think? What American remake of a foreign film you think did the best, like in terms of getting the story across the best way from the original?
Probably, I think the first one that comes to mind is definitely The Departed by Martin Scorsese. Because
Yeah,
once
yeah,
again, like
I would have
that
to agree as well.
that original movie in Hong Kong, like the concept is simple to understand. It's one guy,
Yeah,
one policeman infiltrated in the mafia, and one mafia guy infiltrated in the police force, and they're trying to find out the other's identity. And you can place that story anywhere in the world, and it's still interesting, it's still engaging. Like you can place it in England, you can place it in Boston, you can
yeah,
place it in Madrid or Romania, and people will understand it.
Everyone has police. Everyone has gangsters of
yeah,
some
There you
form.
go. There you go. There
Yeah.
you go. There you go. But there's this, for example, this other film, and then once again, it's Martin Scorsese, which is a master of cinema. So uh, it will be pretty hard for him to speak, I think.
Go Dragon Tattoo also did really well.
Yeah, well, but yeah, Dragon Tattoo. Then again,
oh yeah,
Dragon Tattoo is I think, it's a different case because it's placed in the same environment. Like Dragon Tattoo, the original Swedish film and the David Fincher one, they both take place in Sweden with Swedish characters, and so yeah, the only thing that switches maybe is language.
Although
yeah,
it was something that's what's his name, Stella Skarsgård said in an interview that I found interesting was it wasn't based on the issues in Sweden, but it was based on the discussions in Sweden. A lot of that is to do with like feminism being a thing, female empowerment, because you obviously have your Elizabeth Salander being, assaulted, and then her taking revenge on it. There were some differences there that in the Swedish version, the humiliation of her attacker was more important.
I haven't
Like
watched the
she
Swedish version. I haven't watched the Swedish version, so I cannot say. But I'm guessing.
oh no.
I'm guessing what David Fincher did, because I've watched David Fincher, was sort of digested down for American audiences.
It never took away from it. I think the one thing that I think because you can't talk about Dragon Tattoo without talking about the rape.
Yeah.
But with Elizabeth Salander taking
yeah,
revenge on her attacker in the Swedish version, she actively degraded, and there's a lot more sadism behind like what she did, and she also penetrated him with an actual dildo in the American version. She penetrated him with like a chair leg or something. Where in the American version, the violence in it was more, I got you, blah 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 blah. But I don't know, like it seemed to be the in Sweden. Obviously, we look at the cultural context with that. They're all quite feminist and really like more so than I think fair to say the UK or maybe even Spain.
No,
There.
I mean, I haven't been to Sweden, but
yeah.
I'm guessing it's pretty easy to be more feminist than most countries nowadays.
Yeah, it's like all the Nordic countries tend to be quite similar with that.
Well, yeah, they tend to be like more
Yeah, Danish as
advanced
well.
democracies in that sense.
Yeah, that more social programs. You could argue that they're relying on the state led to being attacked, but
Let's not get off course. You were saying.
yes, sorry.
No, you were saying that they are basically the issues with student society were not played properly in American version.
Yeah, it was more for an American audience where the violence was the aspect to it.
Well, yeah,
but
because
in Sweden, it's more the humiliation to it.
Yeah.
Because
yeah, but this is filmmaking 101. Like, you make films for an audience, and you got to take the audience into account. So if you know that your film is going to be watched by Swedish audiences, you want to portray something that Swedish audiences will understand. So maybe that's why it has like a more feministic touch to it, because American audience maybe is not as feminist or as like Swedish audiences. So maybe what they do is just digest it down, or so tone it down, so it can be more understandable by American audiences.
yeah, of course.
But this is not.
Yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
it's done. I don't think it's done poorly. I don't think it's a bad example. On the contrary, I think it shows David Fincher's mastery of understanding the product that he's making and who he's making it for.
It's also a better made film as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, definitely. Like I have only seen like few scenes of it, but like David Fincher is one of my favorite filmmakers. So I'm not 100% biased on this. Or unbiased, how do you say it?
Yeah.
So
Bias.
so I'm not 100% biased, but the US version is just, and it has like
Yeah.
all the Fincher's sort of
Yeah,
like camera
what-
movements.
So you're saying, Hayden?
Yeah, it's strange they never went to do any of the sequels. Like, didn't they like skip it like 2 books or something in the American one?
Yeah,
Like,
there was
didn't do
original
the trilogy.
plan. There was the original plan, but it bombed at the box office.
Yeah.
So all the actors signed contracts saying that
Ah,
I'll do a
right, I
trilogy if
see.
you're doing it, but they didn't. And then obviously several years later they did Girl in the Spider's Web, which
Isn't that like the 4th book or something like that?
I
Like, isn't
have
that after
I have
the trilogy?
I haven't read the books. Maybe
Neither I.
maybe Stieg Larsson's death had something to do with it. Like they not being able to do the trilogy.
it was due to not earning enough at the box office because it did bomb.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it sucks that the movie bombed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's honestly so good. I like it. And then, but
Yeah.
for example, but I think that's not like a correct, like it's a good example of a remake, but it's not like what I understand as a remake of an international film. What I understand of a remake of an international film, like a pure remake, is taking a story that happens in another country, like another film, and then bringing it to yours. I mean, that's obviously a remake in the sense that it's a Swedish film by a Swedish filmmaker, remake by an American film with an American director, but it takes place in the exact same locations. Whereas for example, you take a movie like Nine Queens with Ricardo Darín in it, which is it's an Argentinian film, and it is the highest grossing film in Argentinian history, I think. Right until The Secret in Your Eyes by Juan Jose Campanella came out in 2008, I think. So right until then, it was the highest grossing film in Argentinian history, and it was so good that they decided to make a remake in the US with Diego Luna and John C. Reilly in it, called Criminal. But the thing about that film is, I mean, they did like the exact same story except for the ending. The thing about that film is that the original one has so much to do with like the Argentinian cultural way of being, and how they talk, and how they move, and how they have like this idioms and stuff like that. And that, I don't think that could really play out that well in the American version. That's why the American version bombed, as well as the ending, because they had to change the ending, because the ending in the Argentinian film is the guy. I mean, it's about these 2 guys who basically are ripping everyone off. They are, how do you call it, like small can I use my Google Translate for a second?
Oh, go for it.
Sorry, man.
Could I bring up another question just while you're doing that?
Yeah, sure.
But you talk about stories from like one culture bringing it to another in a different context. Say Hamlet, like 1500s, 1600s, Shakespeare, British time. Then look at The Lion King, 1990s America, set in the savannah. Would you say that is like a translation, like having a similar story into?
It is a good translation. That is a good example. That's a good example. I don't know if it would classify as a remake because there wasn't an original Hamlet film made by Shakespeare back in the 1600s.
Yeah.
But I do think like because Hamlet is such an international story, like everyone knows that to be or not to be monologue, and everyone knows the story is about, and and Hamlet killing his friend through the court and all that. Like we all know that. So I think that can play out really well in different cultures, like in different countries. Like there was a remake of King Lear by Shakespeare in Japan by Akira Kurosawa called Rashomon, which an adaptation, sorry, not a remake, which is one of the best Japanese films there have been. I think it's Rashomon. I'm not too sure that's the title. Anyways, the Argentina film I was talking about, the two guys, they're scammers. So what they do is they like the scam banks and stuff like that. And the American versions, they could not accept the same ending as the Argentinian versions because the Argentinian version is the guy, the protagonist goes to a bank and he cashes in like a $90 million check, something like that. And the American version, they couldn't afford to do that because they were like, man, banks are good people, like.
Man.
So they
yeah.
So they switched the ending, and that didn't happen.